Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now April 30th of 2023. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend, by the way, and as we get closer month by month to the upcoming Ahsoka Tano series, which by the way makes its debut on Disney Plus by this August. We still don't have an exact release date, but it's looking to be either the middle or later portion of that month. There's a lot of great things that Dave Filoni actually has written for the show that we've been talking about. He himself has even been teasing a lot of things for what is about to appear in the Ahsoka Tano series and how it connects to future Star Wars shows out there that will be announced at this year's D23. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, we know that there's a lot of things happening between all of the upcoming Star Wars shows, and how Kathleen Kennedy has little to no involvement in the majority. As of right now, she only has creative control over Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. Let's just be very clear about that and very direct about all of that. And given that Disney executives still to this day are trying to get Kathleen Kennedy out by this August, by the way, that's all now officially dependent on the success and or failure of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which debuts this June. So that brings us to exactly what's going on with everything related to Dave Filoni admitting a certain truth surrounding the character of Luke Skywalker. Now, we know that Dave Filoni is a true fan at heart and a true protege of George Lucas. He worked with him for many, many years with the Clone Wars series, and ever since, he has only been trying to keep his passion alive and well, and his philosophy pretty much embedded within the Star Wars franchise. Now, right now, John and Dave are working on the evolution of the franchise, especially with the Ahsoka series that they view as the big win for Disney+. However, in a recent interview that Dave Filoni went on to admit a couple of things surrounding Luke Skywalker, where he was able to state the following to the fans. I think it's only responsible if I make things a bit more clear to everybody surrounding Luke. So earlier I said that we had never intended to bring Luke back for Season 3, but what I forgot to mention is that we did have plans for him in the earlier drafts of the script. Before we canceled this plan for Luke, we had a fleshed out idea that Grogu was going to stay with Luke for a while longer to train the ways of the Jedi after going back to Ossus, where we would actually come in to Season 3, where then Grogu would have to make a choice officially, but that choice is interrupted when DJARIN comes back to Ossus and insists to Luke that he needs his help and he could use Grogu's help too. So let me just pause here quick. What Dave Filoni is saying is that there was a time in the earlier drafts of Season 3 where they wanted Grogu to go back to Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple. Not that he necessarily stayed, but that he went back and then was going to get picked up by DJARIN in search of help. Now, what's interesting about this is that this would then kind of make things make a little bit more sense, because I know a lot of fans out there never liked the idea of how basically everything related to the Book of Boba Fett really left things off with, of course, the Mandalorian Season, 3, and exactly what was going to happen with all of that. We know that everything related to Mando Season 2 kind of set things up with Grogu. The Book of Boba Fett also, kind of set things up for Luke and Grogu's, their Jedi training, their overall bond, if you will, and where that was going to go. And, what's funny is that even myself to this day, a lot of fans out there, we always get confused with Luke appearing in the Book of Boba with Luke appearing in The Mandalorian. It's sometimes really confusing when you think about it. You always get mixed up with that. But what's interesting is what Dave Filoni points out here is that Grogu was originally in the earlier drafts of Mando Season 3. He was going to go back to Ossus and train there for a while and eventually get picked up by Din by the time Mando Season 3 comes into play. Alright, now he goes on to elaborate further. We wanted to keep Grogu's decision a bit ambiguous, where Luke was going to have an appearance by putting his training on hold, where Luke would agree to let go of Grogu and to go with Din to help him on his quest. But we weren't really sure if we wanted Luke to leave Ossus, and we weren't really sure if we could find that balance of using Luke too little or too much. So Kathy kept on insisting to us that we cancel out his appearances altogether, and that it would only create a bigger confusing piece for the audience. Now again, as Dave Filoni points out, where the Book of Boba Fett left off, you know, Luke was giving Grogu a choice to leave or to stay, and as you all saw, Grogu left Ossus. He went into the X-Wing, it went on its path, and went over to the whole, battle between Din and Boba Fett, all those things with Cad Bane, that whole scenery. And the thing about this, too, I think a lot of fans need to realize is that I think that this could have worked if they fleshed things out, like he said, if they executed things out perfectly, because Grogu going back to Luke could have really made things a little bit more concrete or a little bit more logical. It could have been written in a sense where Grogu just left Ossus, temporarily speaking for all we know, at the end of Book of Boba, and then you come back to Mando Season 3 with Grogu there training with Luke. So there was this original idea of Luke being in Season 3's opening, where he would make a brief cameo, but the standstill, the roadblock that Dave Filoni was finding himself was, how much do we really use Luke? Because then he would have to leave Ossus. You can't ignore Din's help or Din's request to come to his aid because he's a Jedi in need of, help. And so that's where they ran into issues, and that's when Kathleen Kennedy insisted that they should just cut out Luke Skywalker entirely. And John and Dave had some issues with that. They also had some agreements, with not using Luke for a little while to kind of keep that surprise intact. They want to make sure that they don't overuse Luke as well. You want to keep him a surprising character appearance. Moving on. Now he goes on to conclude, I felt Grogu staying with Luke would have been more proper in the Book of Boba, but we had many creative roadblocks, and Kathy wanted no Luke appearances at all in Mando Season 3, which is something that we partially planned anyway, but we at least wanted to make it known for fans that Luke let Grogu go again. We had this idea in the beginning that Din brought Grogu back to Luke at some point between Book of Boba and Season 3, and things just didn't work out that way, so Kathy decided that we shouldn't really use Luke at all to avoid any kind of confusion. So again, I think that with Tamora Morrison really calling out Disney recently, I don't know if you guys knew about this, but he even said things around the lines of, Din Djarin coming into the Book of Boba Fett really confused a lot of people, where a lot of people felt like the Book of Boba was the Mandalorian show. And there's a lot of casual fans out there that get confused with that. They think the scenes with Grogu and Luke are from The Mandalorian, but it's really from the Book of Boba Fett. So overall, I would like to hear what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, let me know what you guys have to say about all of that below, and I will catch you guys next time.